Hello and welcome back to the channel this week. This week's episode is about the Fuji X-T50 and whether or not it really makes a great travel camera or not. I took a family trip out to Oregon to visit our kids, and I took the Fuji X-T50 along just to see what I could get. And I didn't get a lot of chance to photograph, but you know, when I did, I got some fairly decent stuff. And I went to places, well, one place I went to was someplace I've gone quite a bit, and that's Waterfalls. And the other one is Rowena Point, and it's down near the end of the gorge. And I gotta say, it's a beautiful spot. I got some really interesting photographs, but I digress a little bit. Now, what I brought with me was the 16-80 and the 70-300. This lens is just a phenomenal lens, and it performs on this X-T50 really well. But I gotta say, look at the size of this. This is just, it's too big. I mean, this camera is so nice and light, and it really weighs on you. Now, if Small Rig had done a decent job of making a nice grip, it wouldn't have been a problem, really, because on my X-T30, I have the Fuji grip, which brings it down just a little bit and brings it up, but it's angled, so it's nice and easy to hold on to. This Small Rig grip is this Small Rig grip is useless, because on these bigger lenses, you can't even get your hand in here. Look at this. It's almost useless. And of course, with this, the 70-300, it would be totally useless. So, and I did bring my 23 f2, which was a joy to use. On this camera, it's an absolute joy. I really should have brought this lens right here, the 18-55, because it, I like the 16 and the 80, but this lens here, as you can see here, would have been much easier to use. Now that is just a joy right there. And then if I need length, I go to the 70-300. And I don't use it that often, so it's perfect for that. Now the new 16-50 is perfect for this. I mean, it's matched to this camera. So the other things that I tried to do is I really wanted to discover, am I going to be able to use IBIS at a quarter of a second? Because when I'm traveling, every once in a while, there's an opportunity to photograph at a slow shutter speed to slow some water down or whatever it was. And I know for a fact that the IBIS is going to really work well at, 15th to 30th. But can I go all the way down to a quarter of a second? And what happens if I zoom all the way out to 80 or 50 or something like that? And is the camera going to be able to handle it? So I've got some examples at Waterfalls where I shot some slow water. Then I got some great shots out in Rowena, and what I wanted to, how I worked with these custom settings. Now, most of them, I've got one set up for news, one set up for sports, which I don't really ever use, but the other ones are set up as recipes. And these are just recipes that I really like. But for the most part, a lot of these recipes have the same components that I use all the time. And that is +2 color and somewhere in the range of -0.5 to a -5, a -0.5 to a -1 shadow and highlight. So what I did was I created an everything recipe that allows me to then use my film sim dial here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you what those results look like on screen. So hang in there. I've got some video to go with these little excursions that I took out to La Tourelle. And La Tourelle, the falls there, they're beautiful if you ever get to see them. It's just, well, it's like 200 feet. There was an interesting experience there, and I'm going to show you that right now. So as you can see, they got the falls behind us, and I'm gonna go walk downstream here a little bit and see if I can find some moving water that might actually be worth photographing at 1/4 of a second with IBIS on. See if I can get it to work. I did make a shot of the falls at 1/4 of a second, resting my elbow on the bridge, and the leaves in the foreground are tack sharp. It's taken about 35 millimeters on the 16 to 80. So these next 3 shots were made with the 16 to 80, about 50 millimeters, somewhere around in that range. And my elbow was resting on the bridge, the railing of the bridge. And they're really sharp. I'm really kind of surprised. Now this shot here is at 80 millimeters, and I'm not braced up on the bridge at all. It's handheld, but it's horizontal, so it's easier to hold. And then this shot here is at 16 millimeters, and you'd expect that it would be nice and sharp, which it is all the way through. And there's a young lady at the bottom of this shot holding her arms out, which is kind of cool. And I really enjoy this shot because it's got some context to it. And this little person in the bottom left-hand corner, it's really kind of neat. 1/4 of a second, man. 1/4 of a second, handheld, not braced up against anything. The other shots, when I zoomed out a little bit with the lens, I braced myself up just on my elbow, and the stuff is really sharp. Okay, so do I need to carry a tripod with me? Yeah, probably, but boy, in a pinch when you're traveling, well worth it, man, well worth it. Well, here we are at Rowena Crest in Oregon, and we got the river down there behind us. And I gotta say, it's pretty nice and it's pretty cool, but it's a little bit early in the day. I wish it was later in the day, but anyway. That being said, we're going to experiment with a bunch of different film simulations on the film simulation dial. Minus 0.5 shadows, minus 0.5 highlights, and +2 color. And that's my everything setting. But what I can do is I can go in and I can change my film simulations to whatever I want. I'm also going to show you how I have my function settings FS1, 2, and 3. I have set to the Acros film simulations, red, green, and yellow. So let's go through those right now. So for all these shots, I have my custom setting number 7. I have set to everything. So what I can do is I can just turn the film simulation dial to whatever I want, and that's what I've done with all of these. And then with the black and whites, I've gone into my function setting 1, 2, and 3, the FS 1, 2, and 3, and you'll see what those are coming up. What I like about setting up my function settings in the black and white, the FS 1, 2, and 3, is I really get to see the difference between red, yellow, and green. So the further we got out to the end of the gorge, you could tell that the prairie grass was really burnt out. It was really yellow, and I knew that was going to make for some spectacular black and whites. So I converted this in Silver Effects Pro 2, and you can see that it really is kind of dramatic. This next shot here, not so much prairie grass, but it was kind of a cool shot, and I really liked the way the shadows were and the light was. So I also converted this to a black and white in Silver Effects Pro 2. And you can see the shadows are just dramatic. We got some nice dramatic shadow areas. Is really kind of neat. These next shots here, this one here especially, you can see the burnt out yellow prairie grass, and what it turns it into is almost like an infrared photo with this black barn, and it's just really cool. And I knew I was coming across this great stuff. I knew it was going to be great in black and white. And these next shots of this barn, there was a forest fire going on in the background, but you can see the burnt out prairie grass. It was really cool. And of course this shack here was pretty cool as well. So what do you folks think? Do you think the X-T50 really is a great little travel camera? I certainly think it is. And with this this lens or the, I don't know, I just prefer this lens over the new one, even though the new one is rated for 40 megapixels, 284, 2848. I don't know. Internal zoom, weather sealed. You know, maybe the new one's better. I don't know. I'm probably not going to get it. I'm probably just going to keep using this one. Anyway, I digress a little bit. That's what this episode was all about, was traveling with the X-T50. I think it's a great little camera for that. And if you get a chance, please give me a like, subscribe to the channel, and comment. That would be awesome. And share the video. That would be also be great. And remember, it's not what you photograph, it's how you photograph it. And we'll catch you next time.